Right now, we end this week. Well, it's not over yet either, by the way, but today's the last day of the week with the man, the myth, the current candidate for governor, Mr. Ryan Busse. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Man, it's good to be here. How are you guys doing? Good morning, Billings. Awesome being in town.
We have got a lot to talk about, but first of all, I just want to address this. Just because you just have to know, Mr. Busse, I argue with these people on the app all the time. I swear at them. I get fired up. It's a whole thing here, and that's just our show, and it is what we do. But somebody said that they said something about how, like, Busse is a fraud and a liar, and I was like, yeah, totally. That's why so many Republicans are turning on Greg. It's because Busse's a fraud. I said, that totally adds up and doesn't sound like a poorly thought-out talking point. And they said, no, he claims to be for the Second Amendment, however, absolutely unequivocally wants to take away our gun rights. Ask him. And I said, yeah, the guy who's constantly hunting and owns way more guns than you wants to take away the guns. Yeah, that adds up. And then he doubled down again and said, no, trust me, and used my God-given name even. It said, Jason, look it up. I promise you, he does not want us to have our gun rights the way they are today. Before we get rolling, will you explain to people, if you are going to modify the gun rights, what the modifications are going to be, and if people like yourself who own ass loads of normal guns responsibly and choose to use them, if they are going to be affected by any changes you would make?
I missed out on that conversation you were having with that fella because I was hunting and shooting with my boys the last 3 days. So it comes as some surprise to me that I'm being labeled as whatever. Look, I sold 3 million guns. Okay, I worked in the firearms industry for 25 years. I believe in the right to own a gun. I believe in the right to defend yourself. I own lots of guns, more than 3 dozen of them. I hunt and shoot all the time. I do believe in responsibility. I don't think, people remember here in Billings, probably you had a guy with a loaded AR marching around in front of a school. Do I think that's okay? Hell no, I don't. I've got kids, and I think our Second Amendment rights need to be balanced with personal responsibility. And when I see people doing irresponsible things, I'm not going to celebrate them. I'm going to call them out. It doesn't, I'm not proposing any new laws. I'm proposing that good Second Amendment responsible folks stand up and decry when irresponsible things happen. And I believe that's where 90% of gun owners are. And let's get this over with, because I got to go bird hunting as soon as I get home.
Amen. Well, and that's what I was going to say to you. So I was like, okay, so we kind of painted the picture here. So we have 2 camps here of people like, okay, no, I do care about the guns issue, and I have guns. I want to know. So you're either in the camp of a guy that has tons of guns and uses them all the time and wants to be that, or you're the person that wants to march around with a gun to be scary around a bunch of kids. And he's saying, like, yeah, if you're the guy that hunts and has a bunch of guns and uses them, stuff like no harm, no foul, nothing, that good for you, high five, you're American. He's like, but yes, if you are the people that are like marching through schools and stuff with guns, like, we may be having a conversation.
Yeah,
if you're like, I don't do that, don't worry, Ryan Busse's not coming for you.
Yeah, so I do think that it's on us as gun owners to stand up and be for the Second Amendment. And what I mean by that, when people do irresponsible, dangerous things, we should call them out. And there was a time not very long ago in America where gun owners were the very first ones to shout down stuff that was irresponsible. I just think we need to get back to that. And I think we need a governor who is both a proud gun owner, as I am, believes in the Second Amendment, the right to defend yourself, and is okay saying no when it's usually guys. So when a guy does something irresponsible, we shout it down. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, I think that's the real program stance.
Yeah, which is funny you say guy, because I'm the same way too. It's like, it is guys. Like, no offense. I mean, you're a guy and I'm a guy. It's like we're allowed to acknowledge, like, hey, it's not against us. We are not those guys. But yeah, it does tend to be guys. A lot of guys, even of our own race too. And it's not. We're not saying you. And we're not anti-white guy in general. Is my point. It's like, it's okay to acknowledge, like, yeah, this one, it does seem to be an issue with dudes who are not. Also, though, speaking on this specifically, I'm sure you followed this Georgia situation. I mean, that's very specific. We now have, a kid who murdered people in a school. He's in custody. He's being charged. And now the father who purchased the kid who he knew could be a threat, a gun, and gifted his child a firearm that ended up murdering people is being charged with a ton of serious charges. So there's at least a little bit of accountability, which I would hope all gun owners would agree that, like, yes, if you are that negligent and irresponsible with providing a firearm to a child that is then going to kill people, they should be held responsible. I mean, you would agree, right? Kind of like you said with the common sense gun ownership of, like, yeah, you can have a gun, but you should not be giving guns to children who are mentally unstable and potentially school shooters, right?
Look, that's a horrific situation in Georgia. I have my wife and I have two boys. There have been times when it's been difficult to drop them off at school. I'm sure that folks driving right now, maybe with their kids in their car, have had those same sort of worries about dropping their kids off at school. And those are bipartisan issues. Those worries and love of our kids do not discriminate between parties. Democrats love their kids. Republican loves their kids. What that father did in Georgia is deeply, deeply, deeply irresponsible. His kid, he knew, had made online threats, and he still goes out and purchases him an AR-15 and gifts it to him. Deeply irresponsible. That's not that's a very wrong thing to do, and I do think there needs to be liability for that, and not only because of the horrific things that happen in a school, but if we want to preserve the Second Amendment, then as gun owners, we need to be the first to stand up and say, when you do irresponsible things, we will hold you to account, and that needs to happen there.
Amen. Amen. Also, though you brought it up and kind of said, "Hey, this isn't a right-left issue. We all agree," and you're correct. This is beyond the pale. Everybody agrees, But I will say how to respond and like the tone of this happening is a partisan issue. I mean, we heard from presidential campaigns yesterday, and we don't even need to get into who is who. One side said, this is unacceptable. This can't continue to happen. And the other side said, this is a fact of life. So just realize there are, at least going forward, this situation we can agree is tragic. But going forward, one side says this needs to stop. We can't have it. And the other side says, no, it's going to keep happening. We need to figure out other things.
I think as gun owners, and especially somebody like me, I hope to be the governor of the state, we need to be leaders in responsibility. We need to stand up and say, in America, we ought to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time, right? We ought to be able to have guns, which I appreciate and do myself, and be able to be responsible and keep kids as safe as we possibly can. I don't know who is against keeping kids safe in schools, so we ought to be able to do both of those at the same time.
I would agree. Let's get to the issue of the day because we have 9 million of them. First of all, top priority here is you were trying to do the thing that's been done by every politician throughout history, and it's called accountability, accessibility, transparency, important. All of us agree on every side of the aisle. We need to hear a debate. We need to hear where the two candidates stand. And there was another guy that was running against you who he had feathers, he laid eggs, it was a whole chicken vibe, and he wasn't going to do this debate. And then they put some like excuses out there, like, we want to see him spin in a circle 3 times and see him do this, and we want to see his taxes. If we see, and they're trying to deny, and then you're like, all right, cool, well, here's my taxes, and so now he's kind of in a position of like, well, crap. Give us the current status. You have been willing to debate anytime, anywhere, because you have got your opinions. You're open with them. You're willing to express yourself. Other people are refusing to debate. But now you've laid out the taxes. You've spelled it out. You're successful, but you're definitely not successful like Greg Gianforte when it comes to finances.
Who is,
yeah,
man?
I know. I'm very jealous of that. I wish I could be. That'd be nice. But where we're at now
do you not have 4 mansions and a private jet? Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, I say I do, but the jet is more of just a paper airplane, and the mansions are more of stick-built.
The jet is just a Delta American Express card.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah.
I got you.
It's a little. I'm loose with the words here, but so now that we've checked the boxes on his excuses for refusing to answer any questions about why he's done our state so poorly. Now, where are we at? Has he officially agreed? Are the debates on? Are we hopeful they're on? Are we just crossing our fingers and you're going to show up and hope he shows up? Give us the current status.
All right. So, yes, I want to start by saying, as citizens of the state, I'm one of those. I'm deeply concerned with the way he has governed, right? He's not held a public meeting. He doesn't take questions. He doesn't show up here and talk to you guys about his jets or his mansions. Doesn't take online questions from voters like we're doing here today. And so I think he not only does he owe it to the campaign to debate, he owes it to the citizens of this state. How did property taxes on his home go down when everybody else's went up? He hasn't answered for that. He better get on the debate stage and do it. So I've accepted the invitations to debate, and he was hemming and hawing and coming up with as you said, every possible excuse he could come up with. So this chicken thing that Big J is referring to here, I went out in my backyard, grabbed a chicken, and I named it Egg Gianforte, and I've been filming videos calling the thing Egg Gianforte. And I got to tell you, Egg Gianforte is a pretty talented, that chicken has a talent for being on video. So you guys should go watch our videos.
I'm pissed that Egg Gianforte is not in the studio this morning. The first thing I asked you when I went out and got you guys from the lobby is, where's Egg? I want Egg Gianforte here.
Well, Egg Gianforte looks right in the camera, and just like Greg Gianforte refuses to debate me. The chicken and Greg Gianforte did not want to debate on property taxes. Apparently, the chicken's property taxes also went down. I don't know. But now we've removed his big excuse, which he says, I want to see your taxes. I'm like, dude, they're boring. I worked for a gun company for 25 years, and then I wrote a book, and I've been just working to make it here, just like everybody else. Guess what my taxes don't show, like yours, Greg? $23 million worth of passive income from interest investments. Probably you pay about a third as much in taxes as everybody else does, tax rate. My taxes don't show that. They don't show weird tax havens. They don't show 4 mansions. They don't show, private jets. They show somebody who's been working in Montana for 25 years and is proud to live here. So anyway, when we did that, then Greg Gianforte says, geez, okay, well, yeah, debates are, I guess they're back on the table. So we believe we have him ready to debate. We have him committed to debate. I think they're squirming over there trying to figure out how they can get out of debating. Again, he wants to be in the doctor's office with women telling them what they can and can't do. He wants to remove your right to privacy, your right over your own bodies. Who wants to be on a debate stage talking about that? I guarantee you he doesn't. So I don't blame him for squirming, but I think we got him in a corner.
I'm excited about that. Also, though, too, you're giving him options, which I like here too. It's my kind of a candidate here too that goes, I'm here for the people, and we just need to get on the record and have some sort of hard metrics here. And if it's not a debate, let's fly fish. I mean, it is Montana. You're throwing down the options of saying, hey, at least meet me on the river. Let's do something head to head, Governor.
Okay, this dude, just so everybody knows, he is the only governor in the history of the United States, all years. What are we at? 248 years? I lose track of how many years, but I know we got 50 states. So you add up all those governors, multiply all that stuff. This dude is the only guy to ever sue to block a public river access. And yet, he is the governor of Montana, and he calls himself a fly fisherman. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to West Yellowstone today. They're having this big casting competition. I know my way around a fly rod a little bit. Governor, if you can't debate property taxes, why don't you show up down there and let's have a casting championship? I'm entered in that thing. So do I think he's going to show up down there and cast against me in the casting championship? I kind of doubt it, but if he does, I'll ask him about property taxes. We'll see how he does there.
I just got, this is a joke, Mr. Busse, but I just got breaking news in that Governor Gianforte has just bought that portion of the river and canceled that fishing tournament today. You are not allowed to go there. Nobody is. It's his river now, and he'll be fishing solo. So
he probably sold it to some ranch buddies of his from Texas, and they're going to sell the trout for $10 a piece. That'd be his MO.
Hey, as long as Clarence Thomas is happy. So somebody asked earlier, what are you going to do about energy prices and housing prices? So getting specific, we bounced around. We talked guns, we talked debates, we talked accountability and transparency. We learned a little bit about you, but yeah, let's talk about the issues that people are affected by day in, day out. We got the big issues that are national issues and that are important as well, but people can't afford a lot of basics and stuff. It's expensive, and our Public Service Commission is a joke. How are you going to fix some of that stuff in the state?
Yeah, man, those are hard issues, and they're on the tongues of every single voter that I talk to. I'll start with housing and affordability. 3 or 4 things here, and not a singular thing. That you can't push one button and fix this affordability and housing crisis, but the state can do things that make it better and make an environment where we have lower housing costs and more affordability. Start with property taxes. I know I've hit that, but this guy jacked up property taxes and rents on every single person in the state of Montana because he didn't do one simple thing, which is adjust the state tax rate. The previous 4 governors have done that. 2 Republicans, Martz and Roscoe, 2 Democrats, Schweitzer, Bullock. They were presented with the same data that Gianforte had, and they said, no, don't do that. Roll that tax rate back so that Montanans don't get slammed. Gianforte says, oh, no, I love that revenue. Let's leave it in there, and then we'll blame county commissioners for it. So first things first, we need to roll back that tax rate. Then we've got the state has a lot of tools that they're not using. Sadly, we have low-income tax credits that we ought to be using. We ought to be funding so that people – I think the most important folks right now in our communities are the people who make our communities go. I'm thinking like nurses, school teachers, cops, firefighters, mechanics, carpenters, like people that without them, the community just does not go. And we ought to be using the tools that have been passed by bipartisan legislators in this state, and we ought to be funding them, and we ought to be making We ought to be making housing more affordable for working folks with the tools that we have. We also have a Department of Labor in this state that Gianforte has turned into some culture war cudgel. I don't know why the hell he's doing that, but the Department of Labor ought to be focusing on increasing labor supply, good union labor supply, so that we can build more homes with more Montana labor. So there are things that we can do that will, over time, it won't be that long, would have a big impact. Gianforte is doing none of them, and he sure as hell isn't making the property tax thing any better. He's made it much worse. So those are just a few things we should be moving on right away.
A few other questions here. I'm going to do them in a weird order here, but just so we bounce all around. Somebody said, all right, Busse, what tags did you draw this year? Any big hunts planned? Let's talk about you and your hunting and your, what are we doing? What do we got on the agenda for the rest of the campaign here? We're going to be campaigning / recreating. What's the recreational plans?
Okay, very good. First off, I'm starting to believe in conspiracies because I drew no special tags. So I'm just like every other Montanan. But there's a beauty in that. The over-the-counter stuff we have for deer and elk, and especially birds. I'm a huge bird hunter. I have 3 bird dogs. I've hunted 2 mornings already with my boys. Lander, my oldest, just went back to college, so I got a hunt in with him before he left, so we'll be doing that. The only special tag we drew in the whole family was my son Lander drew an antelope tag, so we're looking forward to that. The boys love to hunt antelope. But other than that, I'm just over-the-counter public land hunting like everybody else, and I don't think I will be able to get to that big bajillionaire Point of Rocks ranch where Greg Gianforte has all the critters all tied up for him down there by the bajillionaire guide. So I guess I will not be doing that. I'll be out there on public lands with everybody else hunting deer and elk and birds.
All right. That's like my grandpa. He was a big hunter too. He was kind of the same way, where he never got lucky. He's like, I'll just do the normal hunts, but still loved it.
Oh man, we're so lucky to have the sort of access we do in Montana. Yeah, I don't want to be, a hunting bro geek here, but man, the quality of life we have, and you don't even have to be a hunter. You might be a skier or a hiker or a river floater or those sorts of things. The public access that we have to these wonderful places is a pretty awesome thing.
Somebody else brought up Gianforte gutting early child care in Montana. Is that something you would undo when you get into office, or would you gut it even more?
I mean, who doesn't want to hurt kids? I mean, gee, many Christmas. What the message here is referring to is Gianforte, every single chance he has, he outsources good Montana jobs. In this case, early child care development. He outsources it to out-of-state entities so that they can turn it into a call center. Doesn't everybody like calling up and screaming representative into the phone as you're trying to talk to somebody for something really, really important? We joke about that, whether it's like your airline ticket or you're calling about your credit card or something. But man, he's outsourcing our kids' early childhood development. He's done that. He's done that same thing on workforce development. He shuts down these offices across the state, pulls state funding, and sends it to some out-of-state call center corporation. Same thing he did in his business, by the way. I think it's wrong. The office in Butte just got shut down. It's really, really wrong, and it limits. Look, for Gianforte and people like him, he doesn't need extra assistance. He's got he sleeps on beds of money. He doesn't need that stuff. But working people in this state, their equal opportunity is largely based on the educational opportunities and childcare opportunities for their kids. And I think it's time we have a governor that cares about working people instead of buying your 4th or 5th mansion.
It's fair. It's fair. I've never been in that problem, so I don't know if I could focus on both. But I've never walked, chewed gum, and bought my 4th mansion at the same time, so I don't know if I'm capable.
Me neither, man.
A lot of tax questions here. Somebody said we need this sort of tax. Someone else said no, we don't. Someone else said that's the legislature. Somebody said how's he feel about a local option tax? A lot of people just kicking around a lot of funding mechanisms for the state in the future and taxes, et cetera. Where do you stand on all the potential tax issues and changes for the state?
Well, let's just start. I think first off, we have to have a fair taxation system. Just in general, taxes are complex. I don't want to dive into tax 101 here for an hour. That'll be boring as hell, bad radio. But we have a system that has been made much more unfair by Gianforte. When they did this property tax thing, I want everybody to know the state started, with a $2.5 billion surplus, billion with a B, on about a $10 billion budget. So a lot of money. What do they do with it? when he refused to fix that tax rate we talked about, that gave great big corporations a huge tax break. So Northwestern Energy, $36 million tax break. Big pipeline companies, big tax break. Telecommunications company, big tax breaks. Every single homeowner gets a big tax increase. That is just deeply, deeply unfair. I mean, there are people who have owned their home and had them paid off, for 20 years, and here Gianforte says, well, here's a $3,000 tax increase. I mean, that's effectively a mortgage. It's unfair. As far as like local option sort of tax systems, I'm in favor of local communities being able to make their decisions about the way they run their communities. I'll use Whitefish as an example. That little place up there in northwest Montana, I live in Kalispell, so it's north of us. They've had a local option tax for quite some time, and it's worked really quite well. They've funded some great things in town. It's something that the town voted on, and so I'm in favor of those local communities instituting local plans like that.
There we go. We're getting so many things covered here. Dawn, my friend here on the app, we go deep. I'll give you a little bit of the history here. Dawn is a fighter for veterans' rights access. She is not a fan of the VA as a whole. So that's we've debated with Tester. We've had that she's talked to Tester. So that's her personal issue. And she said, I'd like to hear about Busse's opinion about the VA and the future of veterans' health care. So I want to know, you probably know more than I do here. What is the governor's role with the VA and taking care of Montana's veterans, and what is your opinion on the current situation, and what would you do, if anything, to improve the current care for Montana's veterans, since that would be your job?
Well, the VA system is a federal system, and I think the governor of Montana should fight for and be a champion for the veterans of Montana. And I think in a wider context, not just the veterans, but the folks who live in the veterans communities, and sort of a spillover effect to veterans. We have a federal program in this state called Medicaid, and we had Medicaid expansion when Steve Bullock was the governor. And the reason this is important is because that Medicaid program lifts up and impacts the health care for every single citizen of this state, including veterans. The Medicaid expansion that was passed when Bullock was the governor is now up for renewal again in 2025. And if it does not get passed, I am warning everybody who's listening that very basic things that you count on for health care, mental health care programs, substance abuse programs, ambulance services, rest homes, these things are all propped up, and veterans benefit from all of those things. They're all propped up by Medicaid. Greg Gianforte refuses to say if he will sign it, and there are lots of people in his party who say they want to take it apart. If they do that, all of those programs and more are going to be on the chopping block. Healthcare in this state will be a very, very difficult proposition, and I think we need a Democrat in the governor's seat again to make sure that we get this thing passed. It's a 90-10 split. The federal government pays 90% of Medicaid payments, and it's a great thing for Montana. Ask any business leader, ask any hospital administrator, most of which are Republicans. I meet with them, and they look me square in the eye, and they are scared to death about what Greg Gianforte might do to Medicaid. So for the good of all citizens, and especially our veterans, we need to get that expanded.
On a quick side note, too, I want to remind everybody, too, that these types of interviews are not normal. Obviously, this show's not normal, as you guys all know, but this is not easy for a person running for office to have to pivot from real questions to goofy questions, from dumb questions to deeply serious questions to current to and just so you know, there's one candidate that is, we don't know where or what he's up to, and there's another candidate that is sitting here bouncing from issue to issue. I will now give you two totally connected questions. You can answer whichever one you think is more important or relevant first. Brawl of the Wildcats or Grizz, and how do you feel about local coal?
Okay, Brawl of the Wild. I am not lying when I say I'm in favor of them winning. I love a good game. I got a bunch of friends that live in Missoula that tailgate for the Grizz, so I end up tailgating with the Grizz fans. But I really do not have a cat or a bear in the fight there. I like a really good game. I think it's been awesome the last couple of years to have both teams, so high in the rankings and so good. So I hope we have that again. I'd love to see it on ESPN again. And what was this local coal?
Wait. Before we move on from Cats and Grizz, because you say that, because I'm the same way. Yeah. But if it came down to the national championship,
if
Cat versus the Grizz, this is for all the marbles.
Yeah.
Are you wearing maroon or are you wearing gold and blue?
I honestly would. I tell you what I would do. I like to find exciting players on the teams, and that I kind of make my decision. This kid from Butte that's playing for the Cats, man, he is something else. Like, I love watching that kid. I find myself wanting to cheer for him.
So you somehow want Tommy to throw a touchdown to Junior Bergen.
Well,
is that what, yeah.
that kid is exciting, right? So I find myself cheering for him and the Cats, but like most of my friends are Grizz fans. So, you know, I really don't. I'm not lying to you. I don't really have a cat or a bear in the game. Now, what was the other one, Big J? Local coal, is it?
Local coal. Like, yeah, I don't know how local they mean. Like, if they mean coal in Billings. So I think maybe more broadly, how do you feel about coal, mining, industry? I think a lot of people are asking industry-specific jobs. Like, our friend that owns a trucking company wants to know about trucking issues and lacks of. So I think people in the mining industry want to know, are you going to cancel all their jobs?
So I just toured the mine, down southeast of here, I don't know, a couple weeks ago. And I got to tell you, the good folks who work there, generations of people who have electrified not just this state, but, you know, a whole region of the western United States, man, they are great folks. And it's an impressive operation. And I think we have to be honest with ourselves. Coal and coal-fired generation is not going away tomorrow or the next day or anything like that. We need base-level power, and at the same time, there are forces bigger than us that are changing the economics of coal and the economics of the way we generate power. They're coming to our state. They're coming here much like gravity. We can deny whether they pull on us, but, you know, gravity pulls on everybody, and so those economic forces are gonna pull on us as well. We need a governor who puts working people at the center of these changes that are coming. I'm in favor, and I've been public about this. I think we need to start looking and preparing, for instance, Colstrip, to have small-scale nuclear down there, much like Wyoming's ahead of us on this. And that should upset us a lot. Why are we letting this second-rate state south of us, beat us to small-scale nuclear? Come on, we ought to be plugging in nuclear here in Colstrip and planning for it, and working people who have made Colstrip go ought to be at the center of building and maintaining and running that plant. And that would solve a couple problems. We need good jobs for Montanans, and we're going to have to find new innovative ways to generate electricity. That's just the way it's going to be. Anybody that tells you it's like somebody telling you gravity doesn't pull on you again, they're lying to you. Let's have a governor who can see the future and wants to put working and especially union folks at the middle, right in the middle of our changes.
I want to ask just a selfish question, because sometimes I know how to go viral and get news and attention here, and I realized other people are getting news and attention recently by asking a certain type of question of a politician. I want to know, have you ever hunted or branded or done any sort of ranching with any of the Native American tribes around the state? And if you have, can you describe that experience in detail?
Oh, man, I have. So I've hunted many, many times on the Fort Belknap reservation with friends there, primarily antelope hunting and bird hunting. I've hunted on the CSKT dozens of times, if not hundreds. I've hunted on the Blackfeet Reservation many times. And, you know, I have lots of my friends who are in all of those tribes. Good folks, awesome country. I've had some of the best experiences of my life have been in places like that. In the last few weeks, I think I've been to most reservations and met with a lot of tribal councils. And so I want folks who are listening to know, I think that our relationship with our tribal citizens of this state, and they have sovereign nations themselves, and we ought to respect them like that. One thing that Brian Schweitzer did that I think was a very good and admirable and necessary thing is he made sure that Native Americans were properly represented on every appointed leadership board and commission in this state, so that their voices were right in the middle of decisions that were being made. Greg Gianforte not only has refused to do that, he has rolled so much of that back that there really isn't any Native voice inside his government anymore. And I think that's a very dangerous thing for Montana. And I've made a public commitment to make sure that we have Native voices on every single board, leadership, and commission that is appointed by the governor.
I think from a realistic standpoint, a political standpoint, and being a Montanan standpoint, that is a very good answer. When it comes to going viral and making headlines, I think you've sadly disappointed me. And so I think that answer is going to make zero headlines, and people are going to go, yeah, no, that sounds just like comprehensive and empathetic and well thought out. And none of it is totally controversial and seems tone deaf. So
I will say the Senate candidate, Tim Sheehy's comments about Native American folks in this state is wrong, racist, reprehensible, should not be forgiven. I stand with our native citizens of the state calling him out. It's deeply wrong. I think there's been a resurgence of racism in this state over the past few years towards our Native American citizens, and it troubles me greatly. And much like the discussions we had early on here, I think it's incumbent on a governor to be responsible and call out the evil racist stuff that's happening for what it is.
Amen. It doesn't, it doesn't hurt to call things out. People think it's like, well, no, if it's mine. No, it's just call things like you see them. And if something's wrong, it's wrong. Just say it's wrong and start establishing a baseline of, no, we don't do that. Even if, but I've done, no, just don't stop trying to justify everything. Just say, hey, it's wrong. We don't need to put the guy in prison for the rest of his life. Just, it's wrong.
I kind of recoil from all the political correctness and all the stuff that has gone on in the past few years. I'm not somebody who's particularly proper myself. McLovin warned me heading in here. He goes, watch it, man. You got a potty mouth, right? And I do. So I let a 4-letter word slip here and there. Sometimes we say things improperly, but the things that he said, the racist labels that he laid on top of entire classes of people is far past some slip. That's a racist thing, and it's wrong.
With two different jobs questions real quick here, because we do have to wrap it up. I know you got to get to the river. One, somebody said, you keep mentioning union workers. What about non-union workers? Do we matter at all? I forget, I'm not a union worker. Yeah, why do you not like us? Do you only like union workers? They want you to explain your take on non-union workers.
No, of course, man. I stand for all working people in this state, but I think we should recognize that unions and union workers have played a really important role in benefits for all of us. If you're out there and you appreciate a 40-hour week instead of a 50, 60, 80, 90-hour week, you can thank unions. If you like this thing called a 5-day work week instead of working through weekends, I know a lot of people do work weekends, but for those people who appreciate like a 5-hour, 40-hour week, you can thank unions. If you like benefits with your job, you like healthcare benefits, those things were brought to America largely by unions because large corporations saw working people as cannon fodder. And so all working folks in this state, they do owe something to union people and to union organizers. And I think it's important to stand up and recognize that. That being said, like I grew up a working class kid. I grew up on a farm and ranch. I spent most of my formative first 20 years of my life driving around in circles and squares and John Deere tractors and on the back of horses and fixing fence. And, I was never a union member, but I do now appreciate the ways in which union labor has made things better for all working people in this state.
That's a good answer. Good answer. Before we wrap things up and let you get on to the river here and off, traversing this fine state of ours, a quick reminder for people that are wondering, why should we vote for you? And hey, what if I typically vote, Republican? Why would I consider voting for somebody that's on the other side of the ticket? Just give everybody kind of your final statement to say, here's why I think it's time for people to say, enough with the party lines, enough with the current administration. Take a chance on Ryan Busse. Give people the final pitch, sir.
I want to tell everybody, like, you don't have to live in a world where you're hateful or upset with people you work with or your family. I think people are tired of that. And our campaign is, we just did another event here in Billings last night, and I lost track of the number of Republicans who were there who came up to me and said things like, I've never voted for Democrat, but I can't take this Greg Gianforte. I can't take this division anymore. I can't take my taxes. I can't take this. I can't take that. Rafe and I, my running mate and I, were standing and fighting for good, decent things in Montana. Our motto is get your Montana back. And I want everybody to know that this wonderful place where we don't pull rank on each other, when you walk into a bar and nobody says like, gosh, who is your dad and how much money do you have? And, are you royalty from Europe? Like, there's none of that rank pulling here. We have never been a state that does that. Gianforte is trying to turn this into a place where there is a path for wealthy people so they have better schools or they get elk tags when nobody else does. He is literally privatizing our elk herds and our deer herds, and he's taking apart fish, wildlife, and parks. He is limiting access to rivers. He is doing these things, and it is hitting working people. It's hitting us right in the shorts. It really is, and it doesn't have to be that way. Montanans, whether you're Democrat or Republican, stand up and fight for this place. Our national politics can be broken. divisive, all of those things. But our state, man, we can do something about it. We can stand up and say no. We can fight for this place. 16 out of the last 19 years, we've had a Democratic governor, and we've done some wonderful things when that happened. If you want to cut down on the crazy, you want a governor who's not in your doctor's office. You want somebody who stands up for public schools. You want somebody who will make sure access to our public lands is all protected. We're your people. We're just standing up for good, decent, responsible things, and we'd love your vote.
If you did, just real quick side note, if you did happen to get elected there too, could I request you to come to one of my doctor's appointments? Because my doctor's fun. He's low, and I think you'd like him. And the three of us, I think, would have a fun little kind of bro sesh.
Okay, I'm going to, because I'm hearing it's your show, I'm going to say yes, but I have to say that's a very, very weird request. If that's what you want me to do, man, I'll be there with you. I'll hold your hand. I don't know what sort of appointment you're going to have. I'm a little scared to ask you precisely what sort of body parts the doctor's going to be examining. But if you want me to be there with you, I'll be there. I'll be there.
Luckily,
with you.
Dr. Fuller's like, he sent, I would like to have some conversation. It's also, too, it's like walking and chewing gum, too. When do you get to talk politics while you're getting your stuff? It's like we're just kind of handling all the situations in one room. So I think it's efficient.
Yeah, well, okay, so we do have one. We have one citizen of Montana who wants the new governor to be in the doctor's office with him. I will say that I will make an exception for that one citizen. Nobody else. Nobody else. I'm not in the doctor's office with anybody.
I want you to be my doctor. Can I have that request?
That's a very bad idea.
My doctor,
extremely bad idea.
I know, looking at me here, but my doctor said I was the healthiest DJ in North America. My blood came back clean. I had reflexes.
You had too much blood in your alcohol stream?
Yeah, something like that. I mean, I might need a new doctor.
Perhaps. Yeah. But I just want to be perfectly square with you. I don't think I'm your guy.
All right.
I guess
Murphy, you want to do it? All right.
That's fair. Ryan Busse, thank you so much for being here. Honestly, we talk about local politicians. We talk about all the time. And what we say, one of the things we care about here on this show, because we're selfish, accessibility. Being able to have people here for our audience to ask dumb questions, serious questions, important questions, weird questions. That is important to us because we are a family here and we want our family selfishly to have access. So the fact that you give us access, whether people agree, disagree, vote for you, don't vote for you, we've had a chance to listen to you, get to know you, hear your take on things, and you were willing to answer and bebop around every sort of issue here. So that accessibility is something we should all commend. I thank you for it. I can't wait to see a debate. Let's hope we get that level of accessibility as well.
Love you guys, and I do think everybody in this state should know if you are thinking about who you vote for, if they can't stand up and defend and tell you what they're all about, then I think you should be very, very worried about what they are all about. And I think Greg Gianforte dodging questions, not coming on here, not taking the super hard questions about the doctor's office here should give you an inkling into the degree to which he's transparent. So thank you guys. I love your show.
Thank you so much, Ryan Busse, for being our candidate for governor. And you heard it here first. Gianforte may be a werewolf. Maybe a reason he's not showing up places. You don't know. So I'm just saying, it's something to think about, you guys. Thank you so much. Travel safely, Mr. Busse. Appreciate your time this morning.
You guys take care.
He could be Governor Busse someday. We could have to say that.